I was born and raised in Egypt, public school, public university in Egypt. So my chances of becoming chief business officer of Google X from that beginning were not even a dream. Like, I couldn't allow myself to dream that far. And it seems that between my personal life, where I was incredibly successful at a very young age, around 29, I've sort of had my first middle-age crisis. I've achieved everything that everyone dreams of, and I was miserable. And between that and between, sadly, the loss of my wonderful son when he was 21, 10 years ago, that sort of triggered me to stop a career that I have to say was probably the most incredible tech career I could ever dream of, and start on that new journey of trying to make a billion people happy and the right thing as a result. And I have to say, I'm personally incredibly surprised that I ended up being anything in that field at all, because if you know my mind, I'm truly in core, I'm a mathematician. Don't be fooled by the fact that I can speak words, but in my mind, I see the world in numbers and algorithms. So by definition, I was born a developer. I coded when I was 8. I understood physics at a very young age. I was reading quantum physics equations at 11. And it is, when I tell people that, they think it's impressive. It's a very unusual wiring.
Did you have to train your brain to think differently?
I did.
Yeah.
I remember vividly when I was 7, in maybe grade 1 or something like that. I remember vividly the moment where I was looking at the kids in recess and going like, they're weird. I swear I'm not making this up, but I remember my brain saying, but I think you're going to have to, to observe them and behave a little more like them to be accepted. Remember, in my time, being neurodivergent was not even diagnosed, was not even noticed, right? And so as a child, I needed to play football and, talk about who won the match yesterday and things that I really didn't relate to at all, just to fit in. But then once you allowed me, I went back to my computers and I put my head down and I went back to my physics and mathematics, and this is where I found myself, really.
That's wonderful. Yeah. That's wonderful. And you've also talked a lot about the potential for technology. You speak about happiness to be a force for good in the world. Talk to me a bit more about the 1 Billion Happy initiative.
1 Billion Happy was sparked by Ali, by the loss of my wonderful son. The idea that, I believe it or not, in my highly engineered approach to life, it's difficult to find happiness because, by definition, an engineer wants things to be perfect. You want to see what's wrong with anything and fix it. But the truth is that life is never perfect, and actually it's the beauty of the design of life is that diversity and interesting challenges and so on. And so at my younger age, when I struggled, I would try to solve my path to happiness using the only thing I knew how to do, which is to build algorithms around it, which I know sounds really weird, but believe it or not, it worked. I understood in very algorithmic ways how the human say perception of life causes us to be unhappy. And I would go to my wonderful son Ali, and Ali would be the one that would go, entertain me a little. He would ask me a couple of questions, just sort of like to keep the conversation going. And then he would say something like, but you could have just come and asked me. I mean, I could have explained that to you. And he would tell it to me as a heart will tell it, right? He knew.
He was a truth teller to you.
He truly was. And I think between the two of us, we ended up with a very human model that is actually based on, on logic, which is very rare in the happiness scene in the world. That's something that tells you, look, this is exactly how the human machine works. This is where it breaks. This is what you need to change. But written in a way that was human, connected, loving, if you want. And I have to say, when you really look back at those stages of my life, it goes back to that point of, I had to be miserable to find that research or to create that research and find those findings. I had to lose him to write it and share it with the world. And from there, 1 Billion Happy became an attempt to, it is a very selfish attempt from a father, a grieving father, if you want, because I felt that if, death has its finality, and when you lose a child, it's very difficult for any parent, until today, 10 years later.
Well, it's not supposed to happen, right?
It's no, believe it or not, it's happening all the time, especially in our world today. But the attempt was, if I could take his essence, which is really what he left with me, and I spread it to 1 billion people, then hopefully through 6 degrees of separation, a tiny part of Ali will live on in everyone. And that's where 1 billion happy started. And of course, somehow, I think it was meant to be started, so it succeeded and it worked really well so far. We're at tens of millions of people that have received the message, so I'm dedicating the rest of my life to it.